Hi, welcome to FireTech Talk. I am your host, Sean Kelly. Today I am speaking with Bill Politz, Director of Sales and Strategy for AGAS, to discuss the AIM Act and environmental responsibility for HFC clean agent fire protection. Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sean. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Bill, first, what is the AIM Act? When was it enacted, and which agency is responsible for its enforcement?
The AIM Act is also known as the American Innovation and Manufacturing Act of 2020. It was enacted by the presidential signature on December 27th of 2020, and it empowered the EPA to define rules to limit the global warming gases known as HFCs and bring the United States into line with the Kigali Amendment of the Montreal Protocol.
The Montreal Protocol of 1987 established restrictions on halon 1301 and halon 1211. Some of the replacement agents are now coming under regulation in the AIM Act. Can you explain why?
Yes, in 87 and then ratified in 89, the Montreal Protocol limits ozone depleting chemicals in the atmosphere. And as a result of, and halon is a main ozone depleting chemical, and just like a lot of refrigerants, Freon was, some of us grew up with Freon. Those were production ban in 1994, came into effect in the developed world, and therefore we had to develop replacements for that in refrigeration and fire protection. And there are several ones that came about, like HFC 227EA, also known as FM200, and others, and I'll get into more of that later maybe. But they now are recognized to have a problem with their global warming potential, they call it, or global warming power, as I like to say, because their molecules trap heat in the atmosphere and affect the climate. So there's been a growing concern, especially because HFC chemicals are used in refrigeration as well as fire, and there's a huge demand in the developing world for refrigerants. They're pumping out HFCs into the environment, and it's having a huge impact relative to the level of activity. So people were like, we need to regulate HFCs. They tried several methods, Obama in 2009, and several other avenues, Paris 2015. What they came up with finally was, well, we had the Montreal Protocol, and a problem from that is now this global warming, because that's what we use to replace the ozone depleting chemicals. So now we have to do something about global warming. Let's have the Montreal Protocol, since it's the only international climate agreement in existence, so with 198 countries signing on to it, let's get HFCs regulated under that. So that in 2016, the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol kicked in, requiring a phase down of HFC use and production in the world. And the AIM Act brings the United States in line to the Kigali phase down. So we're now going to be ratifying, the current administration will be ratifying Kigali Amendment of the Montreal Protocol, and will join the 130 or so countries that have currently ratified it.
Well, that's fascinating. Thanks for laying that out.
You bet.
What are the regulatory programs managed by the EPA?
Well, they're creating a phase down schedule and implementing rules about that. They're doing facilitation of transition to next generation technologies, and they're working on management of HFCs. And a lot of that has to do with reclamation and making sure reclaimed material is accounted for properly, so that people aren't trying to get around the edges of the regulation and do things that are contrary to the spirit of the law.
What are the HFC chemicals used for fire protection? What are their common names, and can you explain some of their applications?
Sure, yeah. There's, first of all, the category of flooding agents. That's for large rooms, large tanks, piping, so forth. That's HFC 227EA, also known as FM200, HFC 125, also known as FE25 or Icaro 25 as a trademark name. There's also HFC 23, which is known also as FE23. It's only really good for really cold applications.
Okay.
Other than it's very small level of use. And streaming agents are in portable fire extinguishers for handheld use, and the one common there is HFC 236FA, also known as FE36, and it's that one has got I could say more later maybe, but it's got a very high GWP, so it's more affected by the AMAC than some of the other ones are.
Okay. What is the HFC phase down schedule, and what are the allowances for 2022 and beyond?
The phase down schedule is established for all the companies that were doing business in HFCs in the prior decade, the average of their highest 3 years. And they said, okay, that's 100% of baseline. And starting in 2022, we're going to go down 10% to 90%. In various different steps all the way to 2036, where we're going to be at 15% of that original baseline.
Bill, this discussion is going so well, we're going to have to break up this material into 2 parts. Thanks so much for coming on today.
You're welcome.
We hope you've enjoyed our talk so far. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Brooks YouTube channel for part 2 of this discussion.